Today, I found out that my beloved grandchildren were planning to kill me for $1.5 million. Tomorrow, they'll learn they're left with nothing. Dear viewers, please write in the comments where you're watching this video from. Enjoy the show. My name is Erica Wilson. I'm 72 years old, and until today, I considered myself the happiest grandmother in Austin, Texas. I have 3 grandchildren, Jason, 26, Madison, 24, and Ethan, 21. They are the children of my late daughter, Sarah, who passed away from cancer 5 years ago, leaving them in the care of their irresponsible father, who vanished a year later with some waitress from Dallas. Since then, I've been both their mother and grandmother. I sold my cozy suburban home and bought a large mansion in the upscale Westlake Hills neighborhood so each of them could have their own room, their own space to grow up in. I paid for their college tuition, bought them cars, and helped with rent when they moved out. My pension was more than enough. My late husband, Howard, left me a substantial inheritance from his construction business. This sunny October Saturday morning, all 3 came over for a family breakfast, which hadn't happened often in recent months. Jason worked at an IT company, always complaining about stress and a low salary. Madison was trying to make it as an actress in Los Angeles, but was currently working as a waitress at a trendy restaurant. Ethan was in college studying business and dreaming of launching his own startup. "Grandma, these pancakes are divine," Madison exclaimed, hugging me from behind as I stood at the stove. "You know Mom's recipe, right?" My heart ached at the mention of Sarah. I nodded, trying not to let tears show. "Of course, sweetheart. She taught me how to make them when she was just 8 years old. Remember how she always asked for extra blueberries?" "Yeah, and she'd always pick out the biggest ones, leaving us the tiny ones." Jason laughed, patting my hand. "Selfish, our mom." We all laughed. In moments like these, I felt our family was still alive, that the bond between us hadn't been broken by death or time. "Jason, how's work?" I asked, pouring him more coffee. "You look tired." "It's fine, Grandma," he replied, but I noticed his shoulders tense. "Just a lot of projects. I'm thinking about switching jobs, though. There's an opportunity. Might need some startup capital." "Startup capital," I repeated, sitting down at the table with them. "Yeah, to start my own business, IT consulting. I've researched the market, got some potential clients." "Sounds wonderful, dear. How much would you bills?" Jason exchanged a quick glance with Madison, and there was something off about it. "It's not a big deal right now, Grandma, just an idea for now," he said quickly. "How about you? How's your health?" "Oh, thank God, it's fine. Dr. Richardson says my blood pressure and heart are in great shape for my age, though I sometimes forget where I put my glasses." I laughed, adjusting them on my nose. "That's normal," Madison said. "All older folks have moments like that. The important thing is you don't forget the big stuff." "The big stuff?" Where you keep your documents, your will." Her voice was too casual. I looked at her more closely. Madison avoided my gaze, focusing intently on cutting her pancake. "What about the will?" I asked, a slight unease creeping in. "Nothing specific." Ethan jumped in, looking up from his phone, where he'd been silent until now. "Maddie just means it's good to keep your documents organized, just in case." "In case of what?" "Don't worry, Grandma," Jason said, covering my hand with his. "We're just looking out for you. These days, so much can happen. Theft, scams. Older people are often targets." His hand was clammy, though the house was cool. "I'm always careful," I said slowly, "and my lawyer, Morgan, checks everything regularly." At the mention of my lawyer, all three stiffened subtly. It was barely noticeable, but I've lived long enough to pick up on these things. Morgan? Madison asked. That old lawyer? Grandma, maybe it's time to find someone younger? More modern? Robert Morgan has handled our affairs for 20 years. He drafted your grandfather's will, my will. And what's in that will? Ethan suddenly asked, looking up from his phone. An awkward silence fell. Madison elbowed him, and Jason shot him a warning glance. Ethan! Madison hissed. What kind of question is that? Come on, we're family. Ethan shrugged. We're the heirs, right? After Mom passed... Ethan, shut up, Jason snapped. The atmosphere at the table grew tense. I looked at my grandchildren and, for the first time in years, felt like I didn't understand them. Kids, I said gently, of course you're my heirs. Who else would be? I have no one else. Everything I have will go to you three someday. Someday, Ethan echoed thoughtfully, when I'm gone. But I'm not planning on going anywhere soon, I tried to joke, but no one laughed. How much is the house worth? Madison asked, trying to sound nonchalant. Madison! Jason sounded indignant, but it didn't feel genuine. What? I'm just curious about family finances. That's normal, right, Grandma? I looked at her for a long moment. My granddaughter, who once sobbed in my arms after her mother's death, swearing I was the most important person in her life. The house is appraised at about $1.5 million, I said quietly, plus savings, stocks, bonds, about $2 million in total. I saw their eyes light up. I saw them exchange glances, and in that moment something inside me went cold. $2 million. Jason repeated slowly. I never realized it was that much. Your grandfather was a very successful businessman, I said, watching their reactions. He always said, Erica, take care of the family. Family is all we have. He was a wise man, Madison agreed, but her voice sounded distant. Breakfast ended quickly after that conversation. The kids rushed off, citing various obligations, but I noticed them whispering on the porch for a long time before they left in their cars. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That evening, I sat in my armchair, sipping tea, trying to pinpoint what was bothering me. It's natural for young people to be curious about inheritance, especially when they're struggling financially. Jason clearly needed money for his business. Madison was trying to break into Hollywood, which wasn't cheap, and Ethan was a student. But something about their behavior, their glances, the way they looked at each other, it wasn't just curiosity about an inheritance. I decided to call Robert Morgan tomorrow, just to make sure all my documents were in order. I didn't know that tomorrow would change my life forever. The next day started as usual. I woke up at 7, did the light exercise Dr. Richardson prescribed, ate oatmeal with fruit, and was about to call Robert when I heard a car in the driveway. It was Jason, at 9:30 in the morning, when he should have been at work. Hey, Grandma, he said, kissing my cheek. Took the day off. Thought I could help with something around the house. That's sweet, dear, I replied, but my inner voice screamed that something was off. Jason never came to help with chores on a weekday. Maybe we should check the attic. You mentioned the roof might be leaking. I didn't recall saying anything about a leaking roof, but I didn't argue. All right, but why do you need to go up to the attic? If there's an issue, I'll call a repairman. Come on, Grandma, I'm the man of the house. I can handle it. You just stay downstairs, relax. I'll check everything. He headed to the staircase leading to the second floor in the attic hatch. I heard his footsteps overhead. Sounds like he was moving something. Half an hour later, he came down. All good, he said, but he looked oddly excited. No leaks, but I noticed the attic ladders a bit wobbly. Could be dangerous for you to go up there." "I haven't gone up to the attic in years," I said. "Right, of course," he agreed quickly. "Still, be careful." After he left, I thought about his visit. Why had he really come? What was he doing in the attic? At 2 o'clock, Madison arrived. "Hey, Grandma." She was unusually cheerful. "Thought we could take a walk in the garden. It's such a lovely day." We did go out to the garden. Madison helped me water the roses, and we talked about her acting career, how tough it was to break into Hollywood. "You know, Grandma," she said suddenly, "have you ever thought about moving to a smaller place? This mansion's so big for one person, and maintenance is expensive." "Move?" I asked, surprised. "Why? I'm comfortable here. And where would you all stay when you visit?" "We're adults now. We can stay in a hotel," she shrugged. "You could find something cozier, maybe a downtown apartment, closer to shops, theaters." "Madison, this is our family home. Your mother spent her final years here. You all lived here after she passed." "Yeah, sure. But a house is just walls, right? Family is us, not a place." Her words sounded right, but something in her tone felt false. "Besides," she continued, "selling this place, you could invest the money, get some income, or travel. You've always dreamed of a Mediterranean cruise." "I can afford a cruise without selling the house," I said dryly. "Right, of course," she agreed quickly. "Just a thought." Madison left around 4, and at 4:30, Ethan showed up. I hadn't had this much family attention in one day in ages. "Grandma, I need to have a serious talk," he said, sitting across from me in the living room. "I'm listening, dear." "I think it's time you set up a power of attorney in case something happens with your health." "A power of attorney?" "Yeah, so someone can manage your finances, make decisions. You don't want the state stepping in if, God forbid, you get sick or, you know." I looked at my youngest grandson, the boy who used to be scared of thunderstorms and would crawl into my bed, who cried at his mother's funeral and said I was the only one who loved him. "And who do you suggest I give this power of attorney to?" "Well, it'd make sense. Maybe the 3 of us. Or just one, like Jason. He's the oldest." "I see," I said quietly. "What made you think of this?" "I was reading online. You know how many elderly people get scammed? Tricked into signing over money, documents? If you give us power of attorney, we can protect you." "Protect me from whom?" "From all those bad people." After Ethan left, I sat in my armchair and tried to make sense of this strange day. 3 visits, 3 different pretexts, all somehow tied to my money, my property, my documents. Jason checked the attic and mentioned a dangerous ladder. Madison suggested selling the house and moving. Ethan pushed for a power of attorney. What connected them? At 8 that evening, I decided to take a bath. I turned on the water, added some aromatic salts, and went to my bedroom to pick out a robe. That's when I heard noises downstairs, quiet voices. The front door didn't creak. I'd oiled it recently. Someone had used their key. All 3 grandchildren had keys to my house. My heart raced. I crept quietly to the staircase and listened. "Sure, she's in the bath?" That was Jason's voice. "Yeah, I saw the light in the bathroom window," Ethan replied. "We've got time." "Hurry," Madison hissed. "We need to talk this through and leave before she's done." They didn't know the bath was still filling, and I was standing on the stairs, hearing every word. "Okay," Jason said. "I checked the attic this morning. The ladder's old, but not weak enough to collapse under weight. I'd have to loosen the bolts." "Won't that look suspicious?" Madison asked. "Who's going to check?" A 72-year-old woman falls from an attic ladder. Standard accident. My blood ran cold. But why would she even go up to the attic? Madison pressed. She said herself she doesn't go up there. We'll come up with a reason, Ethan said. Say we heard strange noises, or there's a leak. She'll check it out. And if she doesn't? Madison insisted. She will, Jason said confidently. She's a homemaker to her core. Won't ignore a problem. Okay, Ethan said. What about the power of attorney? I don't think she'll agree, Madison sighed. Did you see how she looked at me when I mentioned selling the house? She suspects something. Then we need to move fast, Jason said, before she talks to the lawyer or anyone else. When? Ethan asked. Tomorrow evening. I'll come around 7. Say I hear noises in the attic. Ask her to come up with me. Say I need a flashlight, and she knows where it is. The rest will happen. What if something goes wrong? Madison's voice trembled. Nothing will go wrong, Jason said sharply. The ladder breaks, she falls, hits her head. I'm the witness to the accident. I'll call an ambulance, cry over her body. Perfect tragedy. $1.5 million for the house, plus $500,000 in savings, Ethan said quietly. $700,000 each. Enough for my startup, your acting career, and his education, Jason agreed. And no one will suspect anything? Madison asked again. Suspect what? We're the loving grandchildren. We've got alibis. No one knows about our financial problems. I'll be devastated you'll fly in from LA for the funeral. Ethan will drop out of school from grief. We'll play the part of perfect mourning heirs. Grandma's time is up, Ethan said, his voice cold and resolute. She's had a good life. We've got hours ahead of us. Shh, Madison hissed. The water stopped running. She might come out. Let's go, Jason said. Tomorrow at 7. Be ready for my call. I'll let you know when it's done. I heard them slip out the back door. Standing on the staircase in my own home, I realized my grandchildren were planning to kill me tomorrow evening. My hands shook. My legs buckled. I slowly descended and collapsed into my armchair. They wanted to kill me for money. The children I'd raised, loved, and supported their whole lives were planning my death with the cold calculation of businessmen. Tears streamed down my face, but they weren't tears of sorrow. It was rage. Pure, white-hot rage. If they thought I was an easy target, they were gravely mistaken. Erica Wilson would not die tomorrow evening, but my grandchildren's lives would change forever. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my armchair, sipping tea and planning. First, I needed proof. Their conversation last night was just my word against theirs. I needed a recording. Second, I needed protection. If they went through with their plan tomorrow, I had to be ready. Third, my revenge had to be total and final. At 6 a.m, I called my old friend Mark Stevens. Mark was a retired private investigator with connections in the police department. Erica, this early? His voice was concerned. What's wrong? Mark, I need help, urgently. Can you come over? Of course, I'll be there in half an hour. Mark was a man of his word. Exactly 30 minutes later, he was at my door with a cup of coffee and a serious expression. Tell me everything, he said, sitting across from me. I told him everything, about their strange behavior, the visits yesterday, the conversation I'd overheard. Mark listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding. Those bastards, he said quietly when I finished. Sorry for the language, Erica, but that's what they are. I need help, Mark. I need to record them tonight when they come. And I need protection. Recording's no problem. I've got the equipment. But protection... Erica, maybe just don't open the door or go somewhere else. No, I said firmly. If I run, they'll know I'm onto them. They'll find another way. I need to catch them in the act." Mark sighed. "All right. I'll be nearby. The Pattersons' house next door is empty. Mrs. Patterson's at her daughter's in Houston. I'll set up there and keep watch. If anything goes wrong, I'll barge in." "And the police?" "I've got a friend in the department, Detective Rodriguez, but he'll need evidence. Words aren't enough." "Fine. Then we'll get him evidence." The next few hours were spent preparing. Mark brought miniature microphones and a recorder. We set up a recording device in the living room where the conversation would likely happen, and another in the hallway by the staircase. "The key is to get them to say the plan out loud," Mark instructed. "So it's clear they're planning a murder, not just an accident." "What if they drag me to the attic right away?" "Then resist. Scream. Say you're afraid of heights, that you're dizzy. Stall. I'll be ready." At 5, Mark went to the Pattersons' house. I was left alone with my thoughts and the weight. At 6:30, the phone rang. "Grandma, it's Jason. I'm coming over. I think there's someone in your attic. Maybe rats, maybe worse. We need to check." "Jason, dear, can it wait until tomorrow? I'm getting ready for bed." "No, Grandma, it could be dangerous. What if it's squatters? I'll be there in 10. He hung up before I could respond. I checked the microphones, ensured the recorder was on, and sat waiting. At 7 sharp, Jason knocked. I opened the door, trying to act normal. "Hey, dear, you're sure you heard noises?" "Positive, Grandma," he said, glancing around. I was passing by and heard footsteps in the attic. Definitely not mice. "Maybe we should call pest control?" "No, let's check it out first. Come on, I'll help you up." "Jason, I haven't gone up to the attic in years. I might get dizzy." "It's fine, I'll be right there. Plus, you know where Grandpa kept that big flashlight, right? I need good light." My heart pounded, but I knew Mark was nearby. The recorder was catching every word. "Okay," I said, "but carefully, that ladder's old." "Yeah, I noticed yesterday," he said, a strange note in his voice. "It's pretty shaky." We reached the attic hatch. Jason pulled the rope and the ladder came down. "See?" he said, jiggling it. "Pretty wobbly. Could be dangerous." "Then we shouldn't go up," I said quickly. "No, it'll be fine. Just be careful. You go first, I'll steady it from below." "Jason," I said, looking him in the eyes. "What if the ladder breaks?" "What do you mean?" "If it's so old and shaky, what if I fall?" He froze for a second, and I saw something cold in his eyes. "You won't fall," he said slowly. "I'll be right there." "But if I do? What then?" "Grandma, what's with these questions?" He laughed nervously. "You think I'd let you fall?" "I don't know," I said quietly. "Would you?" Our eyes locked, and in that moment, he knew. He knew I knew. "What are you talking about?" he whispered. "You know," I said calmly. "I heard every word of your conversation here last night about how my time is up, about the $1.5 million, about how the ladder needs to break." Jason's face went pale as chalk. "I don't know what you're talking about," he whispered. "You do," I said. "I heard you say, a 72-year-old woman falls from an attic ladder. Standard accident." "Your words, Jason." He stepped back, his hands trembling. "Grandma, I can explain." "Explain," I said. "Explain how you plan to kill the woman who raised you after your mother died, who paid for your education, bought you a car, helped with your apartment." "I need the money," he shouted suddenly. "I'm drowning in debt. I took out loans for the business and it tanked. The bank's threatening to take my apartment." "And that justifies murder? You're going to die anyway." His voice turned hysterical. "Sooner or later, you're 72. We need the money now." "So my life is just an obstacle to your money?" "Yes," he yelled, then immediately realized what he'd said. No, that's not what I meant." At that moment, the front door burst open. Mark walked in with 2 uniformed officers and a man in plain clothes, likely Detective Rodriguez. "Police! Hands up!" one officer shouted. Jason turned and saw them. Shock, then despair, then anger flashed across his face. He looked at me with hatred. "You set us up." "I protected myself from murderers," I said calmly. "Jason Wilson, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder," Detective Rodriguez said, cuffing him. "You have the right to remain silent." "It's not murder," Jason shouted as they let him out. "It was an accident. She said herself the ladder was dangerous." "Shut up," Rodriguez said. "We've got your conversation on tape. Every word." After they took Jason away, Detective Rodriguez stayed to talk. "Mrs. Wilson will need the recordings as evidence, and you'll need to testify." "Of course," I said. "What about the other 2? Madison and Ethan?" "We're picking them up now. Conspiracy to commit murder is a serious charge." "Good," I said. "Now I need to make one phone call." I dialed Robert Morgan. "Robert, Erica Wilson, I need to change my will. Tomorrow." "Erica? What happened? You sound upset." "My grandchildren tried to kill me for my inheritance. They're being arrested as we speak." A long pause. "My God," he said finally. "What do you need to do with the will?" "Cut them out, completely. Everything goes to charity." "But Erica, think about it. Making decisions under stress." "Robert," I interrupted. "They planned my death for tomorrow evening. Discuss splitting my money after my funeral. My decision is final." "All right," he sighed. "Tomorrow at 10. I'll have the documents ready." An hour later, reporters arrived. The story of grandchildren plotting to kill their grandmother for her inheritance spread quickly through the city. I gave a brief interview to the local paper, confirming the facts but declining details until the trial. At 10 that night, Madison called from the police station. "Grandma," she sobbed into the phone, "please tell them it's a misunderstanding. We'd never hurt you." "A misunderstanding?" I repeated. "Grandma's time is up. That's a misunderstanding? We didn't mean it like that. We were drunk, saying stupid things. Madison, you soberly and deliberately planned my death. The police have recordings of your conversations." "But we're family," she cried. "You can't betray your own family." "You betrayed family," I said, and hung up. The next call was from Ethan. "Grandma," his voice shook, "I can explain. It was Jason's idea. He pressured us." "Pressured you? Was Grandma's time is up his idea too?" "I didn't mean it like that. I was upset about school, money." "Ethan," I said wearily, "don't call me again, ever." "But I'm your grandson. You can't just abandon us." "My grandchildren died last night," I said, "along with the plan to kill me." And I hung up. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months. The trial began 3 months later. By then, my life had changed dramatically. First, I moved. I sold the Westlake Hills house and bought a cozy downtown Austin apartment. The place where my murder was planned was no longer my home. Second, I changed my will. All my money is now bequeathed to 3 charities: a children's cancer center named after Sarah, a homeless shelter, and a fund for elderly victims of family violence. Third, I found a new family. Mark Stevens and his wife Doris became close friends. Detective Rodriguez and his wife dropped by for tea often. Volunteering at the charities gave my life new meaning. The trial was on a cold March morning. I arrived at the courthouse with Mark and Doris. Reporters swarmed. The story had gone national. "Grandmother versus grandchildren, inheritance or life," screamed the headlines. All three of my former grandchildren were in the courtroom. Jason looked gaunt and drawn. Madison was constantly crying. Ethan wouldn't meet my eyes. The prosecutor, Jennifer Thompson, was a seasoned woman in her 40s. She laid out the case clearly and methodically. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," she said, "this is not just a case about planning a murder. It's about the betrayal of the most sacred family bonds. These three young people planned to kill the woman who raised them, gave them education, shelter, and love. For what? Money." She played the recording of my conversation with Jason that evening. "You're going to die anyway, sooner or later. You're 72. We need the money now." Jason's voice blared from the speakers. I saw the jurors wince in disgust. Then she played the recording of the grandchildren's conversation in my house. "A 72-year-old woman falls from an attic ladder. Standard accident," Jason's voice said. "Grandma's time is up," Ethan added. $700,000 each, Madison concluded. When the recording ended, the courtroom was silent. "These are not the words of loving grandchildren," the prosecutor continued. "These are the words of cold-blooded killers plotting a crime for money." The defense tried to frame it as careless talk under stress. Jason's lawyer argued it was just a fantasy, that no one intended real harm. "My client was in dire financial straits," the lawyer said. "He was desperate. People say things in desperation. But there's a big difference between words and actions." "What difference?" the prosecutor shot back. "He loosened the attic ladder's bolts. He lured Mrs. Wilson to that ladder under false pretenses. If not for the recording and the police, Erica Wilson would be dead." When it was time for witness testimony, I was called to the stand. "Mrs. Wilson," the prosecutor asked, "tell the court about your relationship with the defendants before the incident." I spoke about raising them after Sarah's death, paying for their education, helping with money, how I loved them like my own children. "And what did you feel when you overheard their conversation that night?" "Shock at first," I said. "Then pain. Imagine the people you consider family discussing your murder like a business deal. And then anger, rage at the betrayal." "Were you afraid?" "Yes. I realized I was in mortal danger from the people I loved most in the world." "And now? Do you still love them?" I looked at the defendant's bench. Jason turned away. Madison was crying. Ethan sat stone-faced. I loved Jason Madison and Ethan Wilson. "My grandchildren," I said slowly. "But these people—" I pointed at the defendants. "These people are not my grandchildren. My grandchildren would never plan my death for money." During cross-examination, Jason's lawyer tried to paint me as a vengeful old woman who disinherited her grandchildren out of spite. "Mrs. Wilson, is it true that after my client's arrest, you changed your will and cut all three out of your inheritance?" "Yes." "And is it true you gave all the money to charity?" "Yes." "Don't you think that's harsh? These young people were left with nothing over one careless conversation." I looked at him in disbelief. "Careless conversation? Sir, they planned my death. They discussed splitting my money after my funeral. That's not carelessness. It's betrayal. But they're your only family." "No," I said firmly. "Family doesn't plan to murder their own. Family loves and supports. What they did isn't family. It's a crime." "But don't you think disinheriting them is too severe a punishment for words?" "For words?" I raised my voice. "Jason loosened the attic ladder. He lured me to it. If not for the police, I'd be dead. That's not words. That's attempted murder." The defense called witnesses, mostly friends of the defendants, claiming they were good people in tough situations. The most dramatic moment was when the defendants testified. Jason went first. "I want to say to Grandma," he began, but the prosecutor objected. "Address the court, Mr. Wilson." "I want to tell the court I'm deeply sorry for what happened," he continued, but his eyes were on me. I was desperate. I had debts, work problems. I said things I didn't mean. "Mr. Wilson," the prosecutor cut in, "did you loosen the bolts on the attic ladder?" "Yes." "But yes or no?" "Yes." "Did you plan to lure Mrs. Wilson to that ladder?" "Yes, but I'd never actually hurt her." "Mr. Wilson, if the ladder broke and a 72-year-old woman fell 10 feet onto a concrete floor, what harm could that cause? She could get hurt. She could die. Maybe, but yes or no? Could she die?" Jason looked down. "Yes." "And that was part of your plan?" A long pause. "Yes." Madison sobbed on the stand, claiming she never wanted to hurt Grandma, that she was scared to stand up to her brothers, and was so sorry. "Ms. Wilson," the prosecutor asked, "in the recording you say, 700,000 each. Explain to the court what you meant." We were just calculating how much we'd get after..." "After what?" "After Grandma died." "From the accident you planned to stage?" Madison broke down. "We didn't want to kill her, we just wanted the money." "And how were you going to get that money without killing her?" She couldn't answer. Ethan was last. He was calmer, but his testimony was just as damning. "I know what we planned was wrong," he said, "but we saw no other way. Jason had debts. Madison had no job. I needed money for school." "Mr. Wilson," the prosecutor interrupted, "you said, 'Grandma's time is up.' What did you mean?" "I meant she's old and..." "That she should die?" "Not should, but everyone dies eventually." "And you decided to speed up that eventually? We didn't think of it as murder. How did you think of it? As an accident? That you planned to stage?" "Yes." "To gain the inheritance?" "Yes." "After Mrs. Wilson's death?" "Yes." Closing arguments lasted 2 days. The defense portrayed the defendants as misguided youths, victims of circumstance. The prosecution insisted it was a cold-blooded conspiracy to murder. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood and read the verdict. In the case of Texas versus Jason Wilson, on the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty. On the charge of attempted murder, guilty. In the case of Texas versus Madison Wilson, on the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty. On the charge of aiding and abetting attempted murder, guilty. In the case of Texas versus Ethan Wilson, on the charge of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, guilty. On the charge of aiding and abetting attempted murder, guilty. Madison sobbed. Ethan clutched his head. Jason stared blankly. Sentencing came a week later. Jason got 20 years, Madison 15. Ethan, as the youngest and least active conspirator, got 12. As the judge read the sentences, all 3 turned to me. I saw different emotions in their eyes. Anger, despair, a plea for forgiveness. I felt nothing. After the trial, reporters mobbed me on the courthouse steps. "Mrs. Wilson, how do you feel about the verdict?" "Justice was served," I said simply. "Will you visit them in prison?" "No." "What if they ask for forgiveness?" "It's too late for apologies." "Will you ever forgive them?" I thought about it. Forgiveness is about letting go of anger for the forgiver's sake, I said finally. "I'll forgive them for my own peace, but that doesn't mean I'll forget what they did or that we'll ever have a relationship again." "What's next for you?" "Living," I said. "Just living." 2 years have passed since the trial. My life has changed dramatically, and I must say, for the better. I continue volunteering. At Sarah's Children's Cancer Center, I read fairy tales to the kids. At the homeless shelter, I help cook meals. At the fund for elderly victims of family violence, I counsel those who've faced betrayal or scams. Mark and Doris Stevens have become my new family. We spend holidays together, take short trips, and play bridge on Thursday evenings. Their grandchildren, Tommy, 7, and Emma, 5, call me Grandma Erica and draw me pictures. Detective Rodriguez and his wife, Maria, are close friends too. Their teenage kids often help me with my computer and explain modern tech. I finally took that Mediterranean cruise I dreamed of. I saw Greece, Italy, Spain, watch sunsets over the sea, and realized life is just beginning. Last month, I got a letter from Jason in prison. He asked for a meeting, wrote that he'd learned a lot, and was truly sorry. I didn't respond. Madison sent a birthday card with apologies and pleas for forgiveness. I threw it in the trash. Ethan hasn't reached out. Maybe that's for the best. People sometimes ask if I regret disinheriting them. My answer is always the same, not for a second. The money I bequeathed to charities has saved countless lives. The Children's Center bought a new chemotherapy machine with my donation. The shelter added beds for homeless families. The Elderly Fund expanded its legal protection program. That's a far better use of money than spending it on luxuries by people who planned my death. Sometimes, in the evenings, sitting in my cozy apartment with a cup of tea, I think about what happened, about how the people I considered family were capable of such betrayal. But then I think of Tommy and Emma running to me with school crafts, of Mark and Doris, who care for me without ulterior motives, of the kids at the cancer center, smiling when I read them stories, and I realize family isn't blood. Family is the people who love you not for money or inheritance, but simply for who you are. I'm 74 years old, and I've finally found my true family. Those 3 who carry my last name are where they belong, behind bars reflecting on how greed and betrayal cost them not just money, but the only person who ever truly loved them. Last week, I was at the Children's Center reading The 3 Little Pigs to a group of kids. One boy, Danny, 6 years old and fighting leukemia, asked me, "Grandma Erica, why was the wolf so mean?" I thought about his question. "You know, Danny," I said, "sometimes people become mean because they want what doesn't belong to them, and they forget what really matters." "What really matters?" he asked, snuggling closer. "Love," I said, hugging him. "Family who loves you just for being you, friends who support you in tough times, and the chance to help others." "Like you help us?" asked little Sophie, another patient. "Yes," I smiled. "Like I help you by reading stories. Like the doctors help you get better. Like your parents help you be brave." After story time, I went to the center's administrator, Mrs. Johnson. "Erica," she said, "I want to thank you again. Your donation has saved 12 children already. The new machine is working wonders." "Thank you for giving me a way to be useful," I replied. That evening, I sat on my apartment balcony, watching the sunset over Austin. In my pocket was another letter from Jason, unopened. On the table beside me was a new card from Tommy, with a drawing of our family. Him, Emma, their grandparents Mark and Doris, and me, all holding hands and smiling. The phone rang. It was Doris. "Erica, darling, are you eating at home or coming to us? Mark's making his famous steaks." "I'm coming," I said, smiling. "Can't wait." "Great. Tommy's asking when you'll get here. He wants to show you his new school project." "What's it about?" "His family tree. He included you as his adopted grandma." Tears welled up, but they were happy ones. Tell him I'm so proud to be in his family tree. As I got ready to head to my friends for dinner, I glanced at Jason's letter. Then, without reading it, I tossed it in the trash. Some bridges are burned for good, and that's okay. I have a new family, a new life, a new purpose. I'm 74, and I have many years ahead to spend with people who love me genuinely. Somewhere in Texas prisons, 3 young people sit, having traded true love for the illusion of money. They got what they deserved, and I got what I deserve: peace, safety, and a real family. Justice is a remarkable thing. It may not come right away, but it always arrives. As Detective Rodriguez once told me, "Mrs. Wilson, the best revenge is a life well lived. I plan to live very, very well." Dear viewers, if you enjoyed the story, give it a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you won't miss new exciting stories. See you tomorrow.